This is the Dr. Duke Show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show. I am Dr. Duke, and I am joined by Vicki McKenna. Vicki, how are you?
Well, I'm doing as well as can be expected given what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, well, season's greetings. It's the time that we.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, yes.
Happy solstice.
Festivus for the rest of us, right? Just don't mention that little boy all those 2,000 years ago. Can't do that.
Ooh, don't say the C word.
Don't say it. We have speaking of threats to all that is decent and normal, we have transgender violence and threats coming up in this segment. I think this is a really illuminating subject. We have all kinds of dysphoric and mentally disturbed people who, for one reason or another, have decided that they are trans people. And the level of violence and the level of threatening that comes from these people, if these were conservative white men, again, to speak the obvious, doing this kind of stuff, it would be a worldwide front page issue. Let's start with one of the most recent ones. It's a story about a transgender suspect who threatens to literally, not figuratively, rape Christian girls, inject HIV into people wearing crosses, and wants to copycat the Nashville shooting. Take a look at this little piece of work right here. This is Jason Lee Willie, and I love it. A man with a willy pretending to be a woman. Jason Lee Willie, there you go. This is a poster child for what goes on in the trans community. And I'll throw this at you before I turn this over to you. When you're dealing with people who are classifiably mentally disturbed, dysphoric people who have serious psychological issues with their own biology, are we surprised that the level of impatience and violence and threatening behavior is through the roof?
And this guy, Jason Willie, who goes by Alexia, by the way, it's kind of hard to find a story on this guy where his mugshot shows up. You actually have to look around to find the mugshot of this guy. His username is mentally unstable. That's his username. So he's advertising it. He says he's an open pedophile. He's been, espousing these incredibly violent statements like, catch your daughters in the bathrooms alone. I'm going to F them. I'm going to F them till they're dead. I guarantee I'll be in the bathroom raping your Christian daughters. That's one of the ones that we can sort of kind of edit enough to read some of the statements he's made. But is it surprising that someone who is dysphoric and mentally unstable would be violent? Absolutely not. We used to put these people, if they were this level of violent, into institutions. But now he gets to justify his violence. He says he's being picked on. You know why he's being picked on? Because moms don't want pornographic materials in public schools. Hide the kids. He's being picked on because we don't want a skinny, anorexic man advertising women's products like tampons. I'm talking about Dylan Mulvaney. Oh my God, being picked on is not being celebrated. And not being celebrated now is enough for these mentally deranged people to embrace violence. But I want to say this. If I did this, if I posted this kind of stuff online, I'd be arrested. I'd be arrested by the FBI. I would be investigated for making terrorist threats. Now, this guy was investigated, but he's not the only one. You're going to show multiple examples of this. It's not hard to find. If a conservative pro-lifer had made threats like this to an abortion doctor or a feminist who supported, abortion, or politicians who supported abortion, they'd all be in jail. The federal government is putting people like that in jail. The federal government has an entire task force that is designed to descend into the online world of the United States to find MAGA Republicans and conservative Christians and investigate them as if they're potential domestic violence extremists. But this guy, we're not even going to talk about it. We find this story on Blaze Media, or that's the story I read, or you can find it on the Daily Mail. We're not exactly talking about, widely consumed mainstream outlets here. So, for all intents and purposes, most people do not know that this is even going on. It's not this guy, certainly not most of them. And in fact, on the Nashville shooter, Audrey Hale, who is a woman who identified as a man, the media, essentially blacked out the reporting that Steven Crowder did on the 3 leaked pages of her violent, racist, despicable manifesto, so that we don't believe, we won't, come to the conclusion that these mentally deranged people who are jacked up on all kinds of drugs might be a danger and a clear and present threat to society.
Okay, so we actually have a statement to look at here from this particular warped person. Here's what Vicky was trying to paraphrase. I catch your daughters in the bathrooms alone. I am going to F them. I'm going to F them until they're dead. I'm openly a pedophile, he says. You can't do nothing about us. You can cry, put me on national television. I don't care. I'm transgender. I'm in the bathroom raping your effing daughters, and I'm openly letting you guys know this. The Republican Party, what are you F something's going to do about it? Oh, notice how the transgender guy uses a slur against gay men, the F word, right? It's pretty remarkable. These guys are nihilistic is what they are. And take a look at the next one we've got here. It's equally disturbing. This is from him. A person in Tennessee walked into one of your schools and shot up a bunch of your Christian daughters. That's not the last of them if you don't shut your effing mouth. There's a lot of transgenders out here that are tired of being picked on, and we're going to go into the schools and we're going to kill their effing children out here. And that's the end of it. We are at war. Let me put a bullet in your head. This is psychotic stuff, Vicky. But 2 things you said in your comment that are really important, and I want to bring them out again. This is tolerated in the media because this is an attack on Christianity. There's a real parallel here by the uninterest by the authorities in this, how the mainstream media is not interested in this. As long as you're doing this to Christians and Republicans, that's fair game. You and we deserve that for being conservatives. There's a parallel here with what's going on with these college kids and Hamas. All this talk about social justice and peace and respecting all people and inclusivity. This came up in my classroom yesterday too. I pointed out, don't you think it's hypocritical that all these lefty college kids who are screaming for tolerance and peace have no sympathy or empathy for Israel? They agree that Israel has to be wiped out and all the violence of Hamas is justified because of who they are. It's the same thing we're seeing in these cases.
Yeah, this guy wouldn't even be in jail, but for the fact that they haven't completely, brought to a knee the entirety of Western culture. If they had, then this guy would just, make his threats and be walking around, and we would, defend him. In fact, bring this one up to the students in your class. Maybe they defend this guy. Maybe they find a reason to say, well, he's not being accepted. I don't know, a 6-foot-something man with an intact penis and long hair wearing a dress. Gee, I wonder why people might stare. But in American culture, you're not allowed to reject transgenderism. And in fact, if you hear some of the testimony at school board meetings or in front of state legislatures, you see people bending themselves into pretzels to try to use extremely benign language, to try to be as calm and as inclusive as possible. As they're just trying to say, get your filthy sex out of my kids' classrooms. So even the people who object to what is going on in the promotion of gender ideology in the schools are making exacting efforts to try to be as innocuous as possible with their language. So, this idea that I'm being picked on, no, again, this is, if you don't embrace what they demand, if you don't embrace it, then you're picking on them. You're rejecting them. You're being a bigot. Tolerance is, and we talk about this all the time. Tolerance is for them. It isn't for us. And and there is no reciprocity that is demanded of their philosophy. When they say, well, you have to be kind and you have to be inclusive, that's only for them. And since they are on the right side of virtue, self-defined virtue, then they get to decide what's okay and what's not okay. So it's tolerance. If tolerance to them is embracing every, sick, twisted thing they say and do. And intolerance is you just wanting to have your own opinion. They are never required to do what they demand of other people.
Well, it's like Buffalo Bill, I think his name was, from The Silence and the Lambs. I mean, the serial killer, the transgender serial killer, is now the hero of that story, not the monster. It's unbelievable, and we've got more of this. Take a look at the next story. We've got here this is an older one, a little bit older, from the Daily Mail, but we have a transgender activist warning women who try to stop her using their bathroom that it will be the last mistake you ever make. Watch this video.
If you back a wild animal into a corner, they're going to become a dangerous animal. So if you want to die on that hill of yours of righteousness and moral majority, then you go right ahead. I dare you to try and stop me from going into a women's bathroom. It will be the last mistake you ever make. I dare you to try and stop a transgender woman in my presence from using the bathroom. It will be the last mistake you ever make. You need to arm up. Plain and simple. Go out, buy a gun, learn how to use it efficiently, through and through, because the time to act is now.
Yep, this is war, right, Vicky?
Yeah, I mean, take them seriously. Please, when psychos say that, take them seriously. Don't think it's a joke. Everybody kind of rolls their eyes and, you dare me? Fine. Don't blow this stuff off. This is serious. That man is going to be with women half his size in a bathroom, in a dressing room, or something. The person he's going to attack, who he's threatening to attack, is a woman. He's threatening to attack women. Understand that. If you try to stop me from being in a woman's bath, well, who's in the bathroom? Women. He's threatening to kill and maim women. And it's totally fine. Again, we're supposed to accept that the 6'4" hulking dude with the low voice and the free swinging penis is a woman. What we should start looking at, though, is the hatred. There is such a visceral hatred for women that you're seeing here. These people hate women. They hate the gender that they claim they are. They want to destroy it. And that is a pathology that, that needs to be investigated and explored, because it is everything we have been talking about for the last couple of minutes here is motivated by a loathing, a deep and visceral loathing, so deep that you would kill or rape or maim people. So, I mean, when you're talking about a violent person who hates you, making threats against you, take him seriously.
The irony, Vicky, is that if the modern FBI watched that clip, the only thing they would be concerned about is the pro-gun message. We're going to take a quick break, and on the other side, we're going to do a lot more of this. We're back now with Vicki McKenna, and we're talking about all of the trans violence, implied and real, that we've seen across the country that the media is burying. There is all kinds of evidence that these self-proclaimed mentally ill people are not messing around when they're threatening to rape your kids, to come after Christian girls and inseminate them and to F them to death. Take a look at some of the imagery we've compiled here. This is not Audrey Hale. This is another trans activist in Tennessee who threatens to kill lawmakers. Take a look at what we got here. This is the statement here. Kill Christ cucks. Let me repeat that. Kill Christ cucks. To be a Christian is to a cuckold, right? Kill Christ cucks. Behead Christ cucks. Roundhouse kick a Christ cuck into the concrete. Slam dunk a Christ cuck baby into the trash can. Crucify filthy Christ cucks. Launch Christ cucks into the sun. I mean, this has got everything you would want in a psychotic post, right? It's anti-baby. It's abortive in its aspect. It is demonically anti-Christian. This is stunning stuff. I repeat, if you had one...
Person should be in prison.
Yeah, absolutely. Or a mental...
Those are threats.
A mental asylum, at least. Yep.
Those are threats. So, I mean, it's not just about, I hate you, you suck. These are people who are making overt threats. That's not the First Amendment. That's not legal, but nothing's happening. I mean, we're not seeing anything happen. Now, again, if I did that, I would have my very own team of FBI agents investigating me, grabbing everything I've ever posted on social media in my entire life, downloading my emails, looking for a reason to drag me out at gunpoint in a pre-dawn raid. That's not going to happen to these people. And nobody is talking about the instability of deranged people who are now demanding to be worshipped instead of Christ, by the way, to be worshipped by the entire culture, to the point that you're seeing HR departments actively recruit lunatics like that. The United States military, we want our military filled with whack jobs, with psycho, hateful, bigoted whack jobs. And by the way, in a lot of these instances, including the first one you mentioned at the very top of this podcast, they're racist as well. But we're promoting them. We're saying this is what, I mean, everybody's company is being told that they have to hire people who are exactly like this, who are mentally unstable like this. Every single company in the United States is being told by the Biden administration that they have to have their gender DEI, all of their gender DEI chickens in a row. So they want you to not be able to escape this. And if you don't acquiesce, if you don't submit, if you don't take a knee for these people, then you might as well be attacking them. They will say your rejection of them is violence. The simple fact that you don't agree is violence. And that violence they will then claim is self-defense, that they need to attack you because they need to protect themselves from the violence of your speech or your lack of speech. It's insanity on a planet that we haven't even named yet.
Well, we have more of this. We'll get to it in just a second. But, the thing that gets me about this, we've known for 15 years that the progressive left is all about hating your enemies, not loving them, not including them, visceral hate for people who are different. But what October 7th showed us, Vicki, is not only do they hate people, but they're willing to countenance and support rape of children, the beheading of babies, yes, and raping women to death. They're willing to support even that. So we shouldn't be surprised by this. Take a look at the next image we've got here. This is Kayla Denker, another man who deludedly thinks he looks like Napoleon Dynamite as far as that goes. But here's what he said: while advocating just for trans people to arm ourselves is not any kind of a solution to the genocide we are facing, I do want to say that if you transphobes come for me, I'm taking a few of you with me. He's packing pretty well. He's packing, not just in his pants. He's got a pretty serious weapon right there that he wants to use against you. It is amazing that this kind of stuff, this would be...
It's a threat.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, take these folks seriously. That guy is a legit threat. He's making threats. He's making direct threats. That's not something you get to do in this country. Although he can, because he has, and he's not paying any kind of price for that. Duke, you had mentioned, is it any surprise what we're seeing here because of the embrace of like radical Hamas, raping people to death, civilians, innocent people, surprising them in their homes and beheading them and beheading their babies and raping their babies and raping people. And it's not a surprise because the left and Hamas share something in common, and that is they must dominate. These are two ideologies that are driven by the idea of total domination. That's why when you see these nut jobs, they're saying, they're feigning as if somehow they're being wronged. No, they feel wronged because you won't let them dominate you. Same is true of Islam and Hamas. The people in Israel will not let them dominate. They refuse. They manifestly refuse. They enthusiastically refuse. They militarily refuse. And so because you're denying them their demand to dominate you. You must be destroyed. You must be maimed. You must be, you must be tortured. You must be humiliated. You must be brought to heel. And if that means death, and in an angry way, because you rejecting their dominance, it gives them a righteous rage-based justification to do anything they want you. That is what the left and Hamas shares in common, that there is no limit to what they should be allowed to do to dominate you. And if you will not acquiesce, they will force you to. It's what you see going on in different ways across our culture. And it manifests itself in different ways. In the case of Hamas, it's extreme violence. In the case of these people, it's a demand for extreme violence. But we're working our way up to violence in other areas. You saw the riots, the violence of the riots in 2020 was completely justifiable because the people they were rioting against refused to be dominated by the left.
Yep, and this is the point that I made at university, kids. I make in my classes every day. This is an ideology that is about power. And when you get rid of God and you get rid of the possibility of something bigger than us, then power, like in the jungle, is all that we have left. And power is the end game here. And getting power, seizing power, taking power, killing in the name of power is as old as Marxism and even before. And so ultimately, this is where we find ourselves. These, like you said it, these ideologies, they're not about inclusion or empathy or love or unity. They are about scorched earth policies that lead to absolute power. Vicki, we're out of time. It was a good segment. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the program, please subscribe to our audio podcast. Simply search Dr. Duke Show on your favorite platform. And don't forget to follow us on Rumble. Visit rumble.com/Freedom Project and follow us. For all of us here at the Dr. Duke Show and for Vicki McKenna, we thank you and we'll see you next time.